Chapter 18. The Emissary. The tide of ordinary wizards flowed to a halt outside a small, dimly lit storefront about 100 yards down Wizard Way, on the right-hand side. A sign above the shop announced it to be Number 13 Magical Manuscriptorium and Spell Checkers Incorporated. Beetle stepped out of the protective pool of wizards and looked up at his old, once-loved workplace. The windows were misted with the breath of 21 scribes toiling away inside, and through the strip of cloudy glass above the teetering piles of books and manuscripts, he could see a yellow glow of light. But it was a gloomy window for the longest night. No wasteful candle displays were allowed under Jilly Jin's regime. Beetle felt sorry for the scribes working while Wizard Way was abuzz, but he was pleased they were still there. He had been worried that they might have left early that night, as they always had done in his time as front office clerk and general dog's body. But Jilly Jin's grip on the manuscriptorium had tightened since Beetle left. She did not believe in leaving early, especially to have fun. Two wizards, sisters Pascal and Thomasin Time, stepped forward. "We are happy to be your escort, Mr. Beetle, if you need one." Beetle thought he could use all the help he could get. "Thank you," he said. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door. There was a loud ping, and the door counter clicked over to the next number. The front office was a shambles, and it made Beetle feel sad. The large desk, which he had kept so neat and organized, was a disgusting mess of papers and half-eaten sweets. The floor was unswept and sticky underfoot, and there was a distinct smell of something small and furry having died under one of the many unattended stacks of papers. Beetle's gaze traveled around the dingy room, taking in the flimsy half-wood, half-glass panel that separated the front office from the manuscriptorium itself, the ancient grayish paint peeling off the walls, and the festoons of cobwebs looping down from the ceiling. He wondered if perhaps he hadn't noticed how run down it all was when he had worked there. But one thing he knew he would have noticed was the state of the small reinforced door behind the desk that led to the Wild Book and Charm Store. It was nailed shut, with two thick planks across it. Beetle wondered how anyone managed to get in to clean. He presumed they didn't. The state of the Wild Book and Charm Store did not bear thinking about. Suddenly, the half-glass door that led into the manuscriptorium flew open, and the chief hermetic scribe bustled out. She carried a large handkerchief on which Beetle noticed, in addition to the letters C.H.S., her collection of qualifications were carefully embroidered around the edge in different colors. So that's what Jilly Jin did in her long evenings alone in her rooms at the top of the manuscriptorium, thought Beetle. Jilly Jin blinked in surprise at the sight of Beetle flanked by two wizards. "Yes?" she snapped. Beetle had been clutching the emissary scroll tightly, waiting for this very moment. Quickly he twice tapped the scroll and held it at arm's length. With a faint buzz, a flicker of purple ran around the edges of the scroll. A waft of heat hit him, and suddenly he was holding the full-size version. It felt surprisingly thin and delicate, because in magic, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. But Beetle thought that only added to its air of mystery and importance. He caught Jilly Jin's gaze and saw she was for a moment impressed. Then her default expression of mild irritation quickly reasserted itself. Beetle was determined to be scrupulously polite. "Good evening, Chief Hermetic Scribe," he said. "I am here as emissary of the extraordinary wizard." "So I see," Jilly Jin replied coolly. "And what does she want now?" Getting into his official role with some relish, Beetle began to read from the words busily arranging themselves on the scroll. "Please be informed that a castle call-out is in progress. The presence of all indentured scribes is called for with immediate effect," he proclaimed. Jilly Jin went straight to major annoyance. "You can tell the extraordinary wizard that important work is in progress here," she snapped. "Manuscriptorium scribes will not drop everything and rush off on the whim of the extraordinary wizard." From one of her many pockets she took out a small timepiece and squinted at it. "They will be available when the manuscriptorium closes in 2 hours, 42 minutes, and 35 seconds precisely." Marcia Overstrand's emissary was having none of it. He tried, not entirely successfully, to suppress a smile as the exact words he needed scrolled up before him. Savoring the moment, Beetle slowly read them out. "Please be advised that call-out conditions state that manuscriptorium scribes will be available as and when required. Failure to provide them on demand will invalidate your terms of office." Jilly Jin sneezed into her overqualified handkerchief. "Why are they required?" she demanded in an indignant splutter. The words on the emissary scroll continued to roll up, all gaining Beetle's approval. He could not have put it better himself. Please be informed that I am not at liberty to divulge that information. Any questions or complaints relating to this matter may be addressed in writing to the Wizard Tower once the call-out is stood down. You will receive an answer within 7 days. I now require you to make your scribes available immediately. So be it. Jilly Jin spun on her heel and flounced off into the manuscriptorium, slamming the flimsy door behind her. Beetle glanced at his 2 escorts, who looked taken aback. We'd heard she was difficult, whispered Pascal, but we didn't know she was that bad, finished Thomason. She's gotten worse, said Beetle. Much worse. From behind the partition, Beetle heard a sudden burst of excited chatter, followed by the thudding of 21 pairs of boots as the scribes jumped down from their desks. Above the hubbub came Jilly Jin's squawk. No, Mr. Fox, this is not time off. You will all stay 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 7 seconds later tomorrow. The door to the front office burst open, and Foxy emerged into the head of the scribes. At the sight of Beetle, he looked startled. Hey, Beat, I'd make yourself scarce. We're on a call-out practice, and you know who is in a foul temper. I know, Beetle grinned, waving his scroll at Foxy. I've just told her. Foxy gave a low whistle. He grinned, too. Wish I'd thought of that. So we've got the longest night off after all. Thanks, Beat. No, Foxy, this is for real. You are on a call-out. And you're running it? I'm impressed. I'm just the messenger, Foxo. With a flourish, Beetle twice tapped the end of the scroll and popped the reduced and now very cold version safely into his pocket. He raised his voice. Outside, please, everyone, and join the ordinaries. We are to make our way to the palace gate, where we will assemble and await further instructions. Once outside, please be quiet. This is a silent call-out. Fast as you can, please. Ouch! Partridge, mind where you're putting your fat feet, will you? Nice to see you too, Beetle. Partridge grinned as he and Romilly Badger squeezed by in the crush of eager scribes. The excitement of the call-out was infectious, and no one seemed to mind that they would have to work late the next day. Beetle counted the scribes out until it was just himself and Foxy left in the front office. Do you want Miss Jin, too? Asked Foxy warily. I can go get her if you do. Thanks, Foxo, but Marcia said she'd rather not. Yeah, quite understand, said Foxy. Look, I gotta go and lock the charm cupboard. Part of the job. Not that I got any charms to lock up, but it doesn't look good if I don't. Beetle glanced outside. The crowd of wizards, apprentices, and scribes were waiting, looking expectantly at him. Be quick, he said. Foxy nodded and scooted off. A minute later, Foxy was back, beckoning frantically to Beetle. Beetle, he's here. Again. Who's here? Who do you think? Daniel Dingbat Hunter. Marin? Yeah, whatever he calls himself. Him. Beetle asked his 2 wizard escorts to take the waiting wizards and scribes down to the palace. I'll catch up with you as soon as I can, he promised. Okay, he said to Foxy. Quick, show me. Very quietly, Foxy pushed open the door into the manuscriptorium and pointed inside. Beetle peered in. All he could see were the ranks of tall, empty desks, each under its own pool of dim yellow light. Of Marin there was no sign, or indeed of Jilly Jin. I can't see him, Beetle whispered. Foxy looked over Beetle's shoulder. Shoot, I did see him. I know I did. He's probably in the hermetic chamber. Beetle was indignant. He shouldn't go in there. Try telling Miss Jin that. He goes wherever he wants, said Foxy gloomily, as he quietly closed the door. He's up to something, Beat. Beetle nodded. That was most certainly true. Little toad, said Foxy. The little toad was indeed up to something. He was, as Foxy had suspected, in the hermetic chamber. Marin was waiting, and he didn't like it. To pass the time, he was eating a long licorice bootlace pulled from a secret siege drawer of the large round table in the middle of the hermetic chamber. The drawer was now crammed with a stash of sticky licorice, while its rightful contents languished in the garbage bin in the yard. Marin was pleased with his afternoon's work. He was getting good at this dark stuff, he thought. He'd used a dark screen and had walked out of the palace right under Sarah Heap's nose, which had been fun, especially when he had deliberately trodden on her foot. And now, because Jilly Jin had been snappy with him, he'd fix that too. She wouldn't ever do that again, thought Marin, as he smirked into the ancient glass propped up against the wall. Marin peered into the darkness of the glass, and behind him he saw the reflection of the chief hermetic scribe, sitting hunched over the table. He tried out a few more expressions in the glass, tapped his feet impatiently, and wandered over to the abacus, where he began clicking the beads endlessly back and forth, in such an irritating way that anyone else but the cowed Jilly Jin would have yelled at him to stop it right now. Marin sighed loudly. He was bored, and there were not even any scribes to annoy. He toyed with the idea of going down to the basement and smashing a few things, but the conservation scribe scared him. He wished the things would hurry up. What was taking them so long? All they had to do was bring the stupid dark domain with them. What was so difficult about that? He kicked the wall impatiently. Stupid things! Leaving Jilly Jin staring into space, Marin wandered out along the 7-cornered passageway and surveyed the dark and empty manuscriptorium. It was oddly spooky without the scribes. He wouldn't be spending any time in this dump, he thought, but it would suit the things nicely. It would keep them out of his way, too, and he could hang out wherever he wanted, and do whatever he liked. So there!